Bees!
Beads.
Bees?
Beads.
Beads?
In space. Apiary is a dice worker placement game by Connie Vogelman. So this actually isn't a Jamie, he helps develop and stuff, but this is not one of his games, but it is a lot like one of his games called Euphoria that was actually I think it was the first Stonemaier game we ever reviewed. But it's honestly, this game is making me consider getting rid of Euphoria. Now, my copy of Euphoria, I have the expansion. There's an expansion for this coming out, so I'll probably make that determination once this expansion comes out. But for real, this game is phenomenal. I got it at BGG-Con, which is November 2023. It was the only game that we played twice there, and it's probably the game that I got at BGG-Con that I've played the most since then. There's a lot of different ways to make points. Rules are pretty smooth and straightforward. Like, we played it with his wife, my sister, who doesn't love really big, complicated games, and she was at first, she was like, oh, a lot going on. Yeah. But after, the third round, she was like, okay, I get it. And she won the game, and I wasn't going easy on her, so,
No, there's a lot going on, but the different things aren't, there's not, a ton of resources. You have, 3 main resources and the 2 more complicated resources, which keeps things...
Which you rarely see, so it's really
it keeps things a lot more simple.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot of things to do, but there's only 3 resources, so I know to do any of these things, I need to get resources. Mm-hmm. So...
And there's if you have a 4, right, you're placing your bees, or your workers are bees that are shaped like dice, or dice that are shaped like bees, maybe, is the better way to say that. And they only go up to 4, and every time they get bumped or retrieved, they pump up. And if you have a 4 is the most powerful. And in each different, section of the board where you can place workers, there's a special thing for a 4, if you put a 4 there. But hey... You're not going to see a 4 for a while.
Or there's places you can only put a 4.
Yeah.
So you need to, that 4 is really valuable. You got to be really careful where you put it.
But the point is, you're only going to have a couple of 4s.
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh man, what's the 4 benefit here and what's the 4 benefit there? Don't worry about it. Just in the first 3 rounds, you're not going to see a 4 for a while. So just ignore that for right now.
Plus, so we talked about bumping, which is actually a really cool mechanic in the game, because a lot of the places you go, a lot of the places it's just the value that's on your die. But a lot of places as well, you have another, there's a die, and you put another die and it bumps, and then you get to add those 2 die there together, and then when it gets bumped off the board, it bumps up and comes back to you. Except for the 4s, when those bump up, they actually go into hibernation, so you lose that worker, and then you have to go and do other things to get that worker back, and typically it comes back as a 1, unless there's other cards and things that can mitigate that. But because, I have my 4, but I know that once I place it, I'm going to lose this worker. Mm-hmm. And then you have to go and make sure that you're keeping your worker, your bee supply, full, or not full, but you don't want to get down to 1 worker or no workers, because that can really limit you when you're having to spend entire things just to get workers back.
So the different sections on the board when you place your workers, there's a section where you get to gain resources, there's a section where you draw tiles, there's a section where you draw cards, but really the name of the game is placing the tiles on your personal board. That's that's 75% of where you're going to get points and abilities and stuff. So I do think that this is mostly a worker placement game, but also kind of like a tile placement game, or an engine building, right? So it's
it's more engine building. You are placing tiles, but it's not where you place your tile is the most imperative part of the game.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess it's just a tile-driven game, but the actual location of the placement is 10% of the decision you make.
You get a benefit when you place it, and there's a couple of different ways to get points or things. Right. But
you get points for filling up your mat, and you can get more. You can get extensions on your mat, and you get points for filling up that. So that is something that, and there are starter. Special ability tiles that you get, and actually Emily had a starter one, and it was just 1 point per building that you have, or per tile that you have, and that's great, because that's just go get as many buildings as you can. I keep saying buildings, as many tiles as you can, but that's good, because all of the tiles are going to give you good things. Farms are going to give you more space for resources and more things to trigger when you retrieve your workers. Blues give you constant abilities. Red give you instant abilities right when you build them, but they can still trigger off getting more points and stuff. Oh, because there's also so many combos in this game.
Yeah.
For instance, I just said when you place a red, they're instant stuff. there is another thing. I think it's either a player power or a blue building that lets you get double whenever you place a red.
Yeah.
And I placed a red. I had that once, and I placed a red where I get to like draw three greens and get to place them or something. So I really got to draw like 6 and place them or something. So like some things can go like really explode out, which is kind of Sigmire's.
And there's tiles too that you build, your hive that you build out, that when you do this thing, you also get this thing. So you're like, I go here so I get this resource, but I also get all this stuff because of these tiles I built out.
Yeah.
The tiles also build another, like, kind of the scarcity of the resources, at least when I was playing. Not like it doesn't only come from like having to go get resources or exchange them, but it's also because your farms, which are the tiles, the green tiles, are where you get to place resources, and you can't keep a resource if you don't have a farm for it. So that creates a scarcity too of like, oh, I need to build more farms so that I can store more resources, so that I can go do that. So it does have that like building on mechanic of, I want to do this, so I need to do that, so I can get this, so I can have that, so then I can go here and do this thing.
But there's also, in that particular scenario, there is a strategy built in there, because if you cannot keep a resource, you can burn it for the Queen's Favor track, which is a track down here, which looks like, the points track, because the points track goes up on 3 sides of the board, and then this Queen's Favor track is different. Maybe it would have been cool. Actually, I was about to say maybe it should be a different color, and it is. The letters are white, and these are black. Wow. But the Queen's Favor track is just points. However far up you are, that's just going to be points at the end of the game, and there are a lot of things that will give you the symbol to advance on that track, but if you ever can't keep a resource and you burn it, that goes on the Queen's Favor track. So there is a strategy to gaining a bunch of resources and not having the space. Like, I was even, at one point, I was like really close to the edge. I was like, I want to get like 4 movement in this one turn. And hey, I have this tile that'll let me get a lot of resources when I go over here, but I actually have too much space. I wish I had less, because now I'm going to just keep all those resources that I don't want.
So I do think Apiary is that perfect balance for a game between like light and complex. Like, we talked off camera that I used to love the really big, heavy games. I know you have friends that do. Light games are fun as filler, but sometimes I'm like, I don't want to spend a game night just play. I want to play a real game.
Yeah.
This is that like mama bear, baby bear.
No, Mama
the
Bear.
middle bear that's just right between complexity but also accessibility.
No, wait, you're right. Baby Bear was the Mama Bear was the middle in terms of the age.
That's the important part of this video. Is which bear was which.
Which bear?
But it's that perfect complexity of, it's accessible to, I'll say, pretty much any board gamer. I'm not saying anybody, but anybody who plays games. This is going to be one. It's quick and easy to teach. You get it after a round. It's not like missing that first round and not fully getting it is going to be super detrimental to you either. Again, my wife, who doesn't play games very often at all, beat you, who's played this game.
Well, you don't have to
70 times.
To focus on that aspect of it. This is a rarity for me where I am legitimately considering replacing another game for this game. And I hate doing that. I hate the restriction of the idea of like having a one in, one out mentality. But this is an example where like it really scratches the same itch.
Yeah.
And it just does it better.
It's a different game. It's not like, I played Euphoria and I hated it, so I'm not going to play this game. And it's not like you have to only have one or the other. But because we were talking about this again, and it was something where I was like, well, would you ever grab Euphoria over this game? And not that you never would, but if you had this game, you might not need that one.
Well, what it is coming down to is it might be like, I might keep Apiary and I might give you Euphoria or something like that. Because then at least both of those games are in our... Because really, at the end of the day, your collection, my collection, it's our collection when you think about it.
So if you're looking to pick up a copy of Apiary, which we definitely think you should, there will be a purchase link down in the description box below where we get a few pennies out of the purchase. I recommend you click it. You buy like 7 copies.
We need the pennies. Also, down there is going to be something about Game Toppers. I don't know if it's going to be a link or whatever, but it's what we're filming on right here, and it's Game Toppers.
It's just Berkey's phone
number. It's just a 1-900 number.
But we really do love Game Toppers. They're great to play on. I like that they're portable. I like that you've got all the different play mats. You've got accessories. We love them. But what we really love is when you subscribe to our channel, and that way you're never bored.
Well, you probably are, because we film like 3 times a year, max.
All right, nerds, we've got another Stonemaier hit on the table today. Apiary. I forgot how you play Apiary. It's a worker placement with dice. It's a dice worker placement game, but your dice are bees.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, you start.
We're already wasted 3 whole minutes.